Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. It's Kwame Gonza here, sitting in at Connect Africa. Once again, we're here to bring you some updates, very, very urgent updates. So we are realizing that President Ruto is in plans of uh, what he calls leasing. Many people are calling it selling off Kenyatta International Airport. It's called JKIA, airport, or Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. So what is happening is that many people in the circles are talking and saying that President Ruto is selling the airport. But of course, himself, he has come out to deny that he's not selling the airport. Just to give you a small background, for some little understanding, Jomo Kenyatta International Airport is one of the most important airports in East Africa, and is one of the more the oldest. Therefore, it is making a lot of money actually. Looking at the performance of the airport, they say that the airport is performing above its capacity. So if the airport is performing above its capacity in terms of passengers and cargo, it means that this airport is bringing in a lot of revenue for the government. Therefore, to sell the airport or to lease the airport, as the government of Kenya is claiming that it is just leasing it to this Indian investor, so-called Indian investor, who's called Adani. And of course, this Adani guy, who's an Indian, has footprint in the East African region. We know places like Tanzania, where he has previously leased a Tanzanian port, which holds almost 80% of the containers which come into Tanzania for almost 30 years. So it is the same situation that we are having in Kenya, that Ruto also is trying to lease off the airport to these Indian guys. So we're going to ask ourselves some questions. Of course, are we the blacks perpetually destined for being servants, or are we destined to be servants of others, to be owned? Okay, if we cannot be owned in the body, then our resources have to be owned. If we cannot own our resources, then somebody else has to own them. So these are the questions that we really want to ask ourselves today. And of course, you will help me to put some of the comments in the section. What do you think about this subject really? Are we the blacks, if we are not to be owned in the bodies, our resources are perpetually to be owned by all other civilizations? Because we have seen in the past that the Europeans have owned our assets in the past, of course, with our bodies when we were slaves. And also, we saw also that when they did not own our bodies, now they owned our resources during colonialism. Now, during this period, and of course, a lot of people come out and justify it. Even during slavery, people justified it, that it was reasonable for blacks to be enslaved because they were, the claim was that they were less civilized. Therefore, blacks have to be, enslaved. When it comes to our resources during colonialism, other people, they said it was justified for us to be colonized, and therefore the white man should be here, until some of our sensible ancestors like Kwame Nkrumah and others, George Padimo and others, they came up and said that it is not reasonable. There's no way it is reasonable. But there was Africans who were justifying it. So even today, that is what we are seeing, that people justify the ownership of Africa's resources by foreign groups, and say it is investment. They call it private investment, all right? And they want these foreigners to come in and take ownership of our resources, whether it is gold, whether it is airports, whether it is ports. Yet Africa does not go into these people's countries and own these resources. You cannot go into the United States and own a very important, even a small part of an important airport in the United States, because these are strategic assets. And like Ruto himself has said, that the assets are strategic. They themselves, and his government have mentioned that the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport is a strategic asset. So if it is a strategic asset, how do you give it to a foreigner then to operate it for 30 years? So President Ruto, of course, many people know him as somebody who peddles a lot of lies. But let us briefly listen to this video.
Now, President William Ruto has revealed that the planned upgrading of Jomo Kenyatta International Airport will be undertaken on a public-private partnership arrangement. While dismissing claims that the airport is up for sale, the president said that the Indian Adani Group will modernize the aging facility, including upgrading of the runway and taxiway. Should the deal, which has to undergo technical review, get a nod, the Indian firm will then operate the public facility for the next 30 years. Citizen TV's Emmanuel To with the details.
The Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, East Africa's busiest airport, was constructed in 1978 to serve 2.5 million passengers per year. But over the years, this capacity has been overshot by 7 million passengers. The aircraft traffic movement at JKIA has increased to reach over 72,700 aircrafts per year currently, and is predicted to reach over 195,000 aircrafts per year by the year 2030. The current cargo handling capacity is estimated at 252,000 tons, having increased by over 50,000 tons over the last 7 years alone. The number of flights handled at the airport has also increased by almost 45% in 7 years. The development and growth of air traffic requires urgent interventions to increase the airport capacity, modernize the facility to meet long-term capacity demands, but the government says there's no money to undertake this refurbishment due to what it calls prevailing fiscal constraints, and as such have invited private investor to partner with in upgrading the facility.
I have seen many people saying William Ruto wants to sell the airport. Am I a madman? How do you sell a strategic national asset?
Speaking in a town hall meeting in Mombasa Sunday evening, President William Ruto said once given the approval by the necessary agencies, the financing arrangement will make the airport competitive.
Public-private partnership.
Okay, thank you. So what we are seeing is that President Ruto is justifying, of course, giving out the airport to Adani for 30 years, for him to operate, Adani to operate the airport for 30 years. And he's saying that this is not selling the airport. This is bringing in private, the so-called public-private partnership. But we ask a question, can Kenyans also go to India and own some of these assets? Is it possible? Okay, so that is the question. Now, the key word is a strategic asset. If you say that this airport is a strategic asset, not only to Kenya, but also to the East African region, because it is the busiest airport in the East African region. Is it justified to give it out to someone who's a foreigner? This strategic asset that you are saying yourself that is a strategic, regardless of how you look at it, you cannot justify it. So whether you are selling or not selling, that you are just leasing, even 30 years is too much. First of all, as a president, William Ruto has been elected for 4 years. So how do you, that's question number one. How do you sell an airport which belongs to the public? It was built using public money. It's not for you. How do you then go ahead and say you are, you are giving out to these people who you said, of course, they are going to modernize it. But when we look at it, when we look at the situation, is there another way? Now we say we can look at these things because we as Africans, I believe that we have to, to step up our game. We cannot always run away from our responsibility and say we are selling it to foreigners because we are saying we cannot manage it. Because these foreigners are not from Mars. These guys are not from the moon, outside of space. These are human beings. So this claim that the state cannot manage its assets, when it has been managing it for all this long and the airport has increased in capacity and in profitability, so where are those profits going then? So these are some of the questions. Now, aside the fact that the airport is profitable, right? There's other issues you can look at. Let us look at the budget, because they are saying, the claim is that the investor is going to invest about, let me say, about $1.8 billion, right, into the upgrading of the airport. But the airport is already operating at full capacity, beyond its capacity. So where are all these profits, going? These are some of the questions which we can ask. All right. And the argument here, of course, for us as Africans is this, that we have to learn to run our own things. The Chinese run their own things. They run their airports. They run their, ports. They run their everything, their assets. You will never hear the Chinese coming to say that the Americans should come and run their airports, or the Africans should come and run their airports, or the Indians should come and run their ports, okay, where their containers come into. There's strategic, sectors. They never say that they should come and run their energy systems. Like, for example, dams, huge dams. They never call foreigners to come and run their power system, their water. But it is only Africans who have this attitude. So this is the argument that we are putting up. And of course, this argument can only stick if there's enough people out there to put it out and say, Africans, we have to stand up and operate our own assets and stop being weak as Africans. We have to stop being weak, right? We have to stop justifying the unjustifiable in all senses. In all sense, in all ways, we have to stop justifying the unjustifiable. All right, so that we can own all these assets. Because when we don't operate these things, we don't build our own civilization, it takes away from our confidence as a people, like it or not. So let me bring up a little bit. Let us look at the budget, Kenya's budget, for example, and we will see that Kenya has enough money for it to be able to take care of its assets. Of course, we have spoken about the fact that the airport is already operating at full capacity and beyond full capacity, right? Let us look at the Kenyan budget, for example. All right. This news is coming out of April 2024. And of course, the Kenyan people have come out, to resist some of these Ruto's policies. And of course, the Kenyan people are very much justified in their approach. The Kenyan people are justified in their approach to resist, President Ruto's, tactics, because he is implementing these neoliberal policies which are coming in from the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. These are all, policies from the World Bank and International Monetary Fund, which say that the African people should not own anything. They should sell it off and give it to foreigners. So whether this is a deliberate sabotage of the African people, as we see in the Western media, they deliberately attack, the African people and say they are like this, they are down, they put us down, always put the Africans down. So whether that is a deliberate attack, we currently don't know. But what we know is that this attack has been going on for a very long time, and actually for the last 600 years. And as we are saying, there's a need for people to come out and say that enough is enough. Okay, these neoliberal policies, these white policies, these policies which are coming from the white people and they are imposing them on the blacks, and actually eroding and undermining our dignity as a people. Because how can you, as a people, how can we as a people have enough dignity if we cannot take care of our own resources, if we cannot manage our resources? If every time we have a challenge, we say we should sell it off to a foreigner and justify it and say it is private investment. Okay, so the airport is operating at full capacity. Let us look at the budget, Kenya's budget, for example. Now, when you look at Kenya's budget, all this money which is spent on salaries and public servants, the so-called public servants, when you convert this money, $1.17 trillion every year, every single year, this is 2023, 2024, this is up to $8 billion, $8 billion annually. That is how much Kenya is spending on salaries of civil servants, including his ministers who take huge salaries and bonuses. Now, why can't we say that this money should be reduced? Why can't we negotiate with ourselves? Because listen, we are looking for $1.8 billion. This is what the Indian man is bringing in to upgrade the airport. Okay. if $1.8 billion is what the Indian man is bringing in to upgrade the airport, can't we sacrifice for 5 years as Africans out of the $8 billion that we are spending in Kenya on civil servants, including the president and the ministers? His ministers, they are taking the biggest, share of these resources in the country. So if we are spending $8 billion on civil servants every year, can't we save 1 billion, even 1 billion, or even $500 million? We can save $500 million over 4 years and upgrade the airport. Besides, the airport is already making profit. So in any case, or in any sense, this approach of President Ruto's government of so-called leasing, or what he's calling leasing, what many people are calling selling off the airport, the most important airport in the East African community. And actually, I don't even know why some of the African, the East African heads of state are even, not talking about it and saying that this is a very important airport in the East African region. We need to control it, at least as the East African community. Even we can say, let the East African community come up with this money and invest in this airport, because it is very important for the whole region, including Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya itself, South Sudan, okay, Eastern Congo, and even Rwanda and Burundi. All these countries, are we saying that these countries cannot get $1.8 billion? And are we saying that are we saying that out of the $8 billion which Kenya spends on salaries, including the huge bonuses of ministers and MPs and the president, we cannot save $500 million over a period of 4 years, so that we have $2 billion for us to invest in, Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, and upgrade it using our own money, and upgrade the airport using our own architects, and upgrade the airport using our own labor to upgrade, and using our own materials, which we have sourced from within the East African region, or from within the African continent, where we are selling cement from Dangote. We can get steel from, steel manufacturers within the African continent. Can't we do this? So these are the questions. These are the critical questions that we need to ask ourselves as Africans. And when we clearly understand these options, that we have these options, then it means that we get the confidence to move out there and then present these ideas and say there is another way. Everyone is going to sacrifice for the good of the nation. All the MPs and the ministers and the president and all the civil servants are going to sacrifice over a period of 4 years, and this money is going to go into their accounts. Okay, let us say these investments will go into the accounts, instead of having these investments, all the profits that are coming out, going into the hands of a foreigner. And besides, this Indian foreigner, when he's upgrading the airport, he's going to load cement and steel bars and all these equipment. He'll bring them from India. So this is what is ridiculous about this. So regardless of how you look at it and how people look at it and how people look at this situation, I think that this situation is not justified. The leasing, as President Ruto calls it, for us, what we are calling the selling off of the airport, is not justified. Is not justified. But of course, my opinion is not enough as a Pan-Africanist. Put your comment and your suggestion in the comment section, and tell me what you think about this particular, approach of President Ruto's government. And of course, we know that President Ruto's government has not been straightforward with the people in the past. That he said a lot of things which he has not fulfilled in the past. All right, and that's why people definitely are demonstrating against his government. But this approach, is it justified? Is this approach really justified? Put your comments and your suggestion in the comment sections. Put your suggestions in the comment section, and we will take it from there. We'll take on the conversation from there. I will respond, and we will respond as Connect Africa will respond to some of your, all your comments. Actually, all your comments, we will respond to them regarding this issue. Thank you so much, and thank you for being part of Connect Africa. Like the video. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to be part of the channel if you are not subscribed to the channel, and don't also forget to share so that other people can get to to appreciate this information. They can get this information to act on it. We are not just putting out this information so that we can be happy about what is going on, or we can let it go passively. But rather, we are putting out this information so that you can be informed, but also understand that there is options, and it is important that you play a role in contributing to undermining the neo-colonial narrative, because Ruto, what is Ruto is peddling is a neo-colonial narrative which says that the Africans are weak, they cannot manage their own affairs, and therefore they need the Indians, or they need the Chinese, or they need the United States and the Europeans to come and manage our affairs. So that is the narrative that we want to undermine. But of course, it starts with knowledge. It starts with understanding, and then confidence comes, and then we are out there to speak about this undermining of African interests. So thank you so much for being part of the channel. Share the channel. Like the video. Don't go without liking the video, and subscribe to the channel if you are not already subscribed to the channel. I thank you very much, and peace to you all until we meet next time. Thank you so much.